English translation, 114th contact. Thursday, 24th of August, 1978, 14:33 Cheers.
The concerns just discussed are not intended for the ears of other people, which is why we will only transmit to you all of that which is spoken from now on. So I will also immediately discuss those concerns with you, which seem important to you, and which are also of importance or otherwise of significance for us and our overall task. In reference to your questions about the Sohar Center, which you submitted to me during our last contact, but which we will not transmit to you as a report for various reasons, the following arose as a clarification. Engelbert and Maria, his wife, have progressed in their efforts toward the meditation so far that they can be trained in the task of introducing the users of the Sohar Center into the same. This guarantees a better work balance for your cannibal and for Jacobus, who also become more relieved through this. But the fact that Maria and Engelbert can take over this task stipulates that they become residents of the center and, thus, change their residence at the soonest opportunity, and this is also in connection with the other tasks that are specifically entrusted to Engelbert, as this has arisen in the entire organization through the achieved changes. A change of residence has become urgently necessary and cannot be avoided anymore, as I already told you at an earlier time with the request to find and work out a suitable solution to this, for which I now have to direct the question to you. Have you complied with this wish and been able to find a possibility?
I have, my son. It has given me some trouble because of my constantly feeling crummy, but nevertheless, it has worked out somehow.
I understand, and about your condition, I will still have to explain a few things to you later. But how do you now see the possibility that Engelbert and his family can move their residence to yours?
I think that it should be possible, with some reasoning from all the group members, that the current so-called group room can be taken over and furnished by Engelbert and Maria for themselves as a living room and bedroom, with which they would, thus, be accommodated. Next to this room, then, is still another, which is slightly smaller in its size. This could be converted for the two daughters Connie and Gabby, according to which also these two would be accommodated. For Rolf, the son, the solution could be used for the time being that he sleeps with our son Atlantis together in his room, which should certainly cause no problems. However, this requires that we convert two other, already chosen rooms as quickly as possible, and make one ready for Madeline and another for Engelbert's family. Other solutions can then be found soon enough. And for the guests, we would quite simply have to make it that we obtain some campers, in which these can then spend the night in each case, with which we then also would not come into conflict with the existing laws.
You have covered these issues very thoroughly, and the reason of the group members should now be sufficient for them to recognize this advice of yours as good.
I am, unfortunately, not so sure of that, for too many things are constantly and happily misunderstood, and also a certain jealousy and egoism play a role.
That is, unfortunately, of correctness. And concerning this, I would still like to say the following, which depresses me. As I already explained to you during our last meeting, injustices of intrigue-shaped negative values, which were built on jealousy and egoism, formed in various group members again in recent weeks. This is very serious, and every single group member should finally be mindful of and endeavored around the fact that such degeneracies no longer appear. In the present case, the created intrigues are now running against your new core group member, Madeline, who is supposed to be driven out of the center in a rather unjust and very indelicate manner. But now, it should finally be understood in this regard that emotions of such forms are very destructive and can newly drive everything into the risk that a destruction of the group is brought about. It is most urgently necessary that it is finally understood and recognized that what has been prepared by us and through the High Council as well-recognized ordinal rules, must be followed and fulfilled if a smooth coexistence among the group members is to find fulfillment at last. It is also of urgent necessity that the following points are finally noted and find fulfillment. 1. Sincere and true love toward and for one another is the most urgent requirement. 2. Understanding for and with each other is equally an urgent requirement. 3. Love is neither a privilege nor a right of possession, but rather an acquired understanding and sincere feeling of harmony in recognition of the solidarity and well-being of one's neighbor. But another important point is to be mentioned in reference to the intrigues resulting from jealousy and egoism. Accusations and false instructions, which are not instructions of even the least values, must cease under all circumstances and may not find further application. In accordance with your wish, I endeavored around various analyses and recognized that things are back underway, which already had to be objected to so often that it has already become a tiresome affair. Unfortunately, I had to find out another time that once again, intrigues relating to this were worked out, so that a core group member should be driven out, as I already mentioned. The very unjust reasons for this are anchored in egoism and jealousy and false cognitions. So I have to tell you, unfortunately, that the grounds for these false cognitions and this jealousy and egoism lie another time in your person because you uniformly testify your love, attention and sympathy, etc. to everyone in a completely normal and creationally lawful form. From this, unfortunately, one and another group member unlawfully presumes that you feel personally more connected to him or her and would love and respect him or her more. If you then turn, however, in the exactly same way to your neighbor, that is, to your other neighbor, then the block of jealousy immediately begins to break open, for it is then assumed that you would be influenced by the other one, and that your attention decreases. Erroneous and confused thoughts arise from this, and these degenerate into rather extreme forms and end at the incomprehensible notion that you could fall in love with the other one, and that the other one has fallen in love with you. These rather dumb and very unreasonable machinations of an egoistic and jealous form are, interestingly enough, usually only on the part of the female group members, with whom these are in part, unfortunately, still very strongly pronounced, while these regrettable matters in recent months have been on the part of the male group members to a very great extent. Indeed, my analyses have shown that certain female group members feel more for you inside themselves than just a superficial friendship. But they are clear about the fact that it concerns a sincere friendship love, which is of good and steady value, as it should also be according to the laws of creation. But the fact that jealousy and egoism are built up from this is absolutely incomprehensible. Now, the recommendation is, indeed given, as well as the laws, that male and female life forms recognize each other much more quickly in true love than what is the case with the same sex. But it may not be unreasonably inferred that through the testifying of love, unjust and lawfully incorrect things and actions would arise from it. True love in every form, thus also sincere love of true, pure friendship, is the fulfillment of the highest and fundamental law of life, which holds sanctity in itself. And there can neither be anything wrong nor anything dirty in this, which still has not been recognized, unfortunately, by many group members. But they are not able to do this or recognize this because so far they still have not become clear in themselves about the truth of their own feelings and emotions. So they are not able to recognize or decide the true values of their feelings and emotions. Thus, they also are not able to offer truthfully true love to even a single human being, without falling to jealous and selfish emotions and feelings that are based on vicious anxieties. Through this, it also becomes perceptible that they are still very far away from conceding their true, purely friendly love to another human being and giving it to him, for they are, on the other hand, still too immature to be able to cope with this. And because they, consequently, do all harm to the true love of every kind and are not able to understand this, they also are not clear in themselves about their own anxiety controlling them, and therefore they also cannot recognize and cannot grasp the true love. Through this, they fall into an infatuation, the most dangerous and deadliest and most destructive form of all emotions and feelings, misjudging all love and already destroying this before it can even be built up in its smallest beginnings. Due to this infatuation, false feelings are then also developed and arise for a fellow human being, which are interspersed with unreal and illogical desires, and which inevitably lead to thoughts, deeds, and actions that are completely degenerate and even dirty and unjust. Through this, it further arises that connections of the highest negative values are entered, which, as a rule for human beings, degenerate into sexual forms and incomprehensible fantasies in this respect, and even destroy much more than what the delusion of being in love is able to do alone. And because all of this is so, it also cannot be understood that the female and male gender are, in principle, diverse in the forms of love, and that also the conditions are fundamentally different in a natural law-related sense. Thus, the following is misunderstood and thought of as unjust: that a female life form can only be connected to a single male life form in natural propagation law if she obeys the laws in accordance with what is truly given for her, whereas a male life form can be connected to many female life forms in this respect, but always only within the scope of the fulfillment of the laws, so without degeneracy. The reason for this is that a female life form, in every respect, can only mate with and become fertilized by one male life form alone, whereas the male life form is able to mate with and fertilize many female life forms, which is truly of necessity for the preservation of the species and for the maintenance or building up of the psyche in a natural law-related manner. It follows from this that a female may never unite several males to herself. However, this is lawfully correct in the reverse case, but always provided that the laws allow this according to the forms that are given by the recommendations, according to which these must thus be fulfilled and become fulfilled. But this is not yet understood by the human being, and thus he or she judges this as unjust. Thus, they are still very unknowing in the recognition and understanding and fulfillment of the laws and recommendations of a creational and natural magnitude.
Your speech has it all, my son, and I find that it is of great value right now because just at present, these topics are very relevant for us.
That is of correctness, for my analyses have made me aware of this fact. For this reason, I also felt obliged to address these concerns. But now, I would like to answer another question for you, since you wanted to know what solidarity between previous groups exists in reference to our task and various group members. In this regard, I had to stretch the circles a little further and also include people who are presently well known to you and with whom you also stand in connection, but who have no direct contact with the current group. Thus, it arose from my investigations that the following persons, in their former personalities, had direct contact with the group, who became great talking points at much earlier times.
Purely internal group interests and data.
These, my friend, are, in short terms, the acquired values, which I did not have time to determine in more detail. Thus, if you want to get to know more of this, then you must strive yourself, in which case you should very wisely use the Sohar Center.
I wanted to anyway for a long time, because I would like to try a leap into the past.
You know how very dangerous that can be?
If he has planned something, then he does not let himself be deterred even by the greatest dangers, which you should know, nevertheless. Perhaps it will then simply be the case that we have to go searching for him somewhere between thousands of years, if he miscalculates or is hurled incorrectly by some circumstances.
Well roared, my child.
Then at least enlighten us before you're doing, into what time and area you want to leap back.
Okay, I promise.
Then I am calmed.
This is also my feeling. But now, yet another question on your part, regarding Madeline, whether she would be a suitable replacement for the Sohar Center task. For this, unfortunately, still nothing can be explained so far, because her efforts concerning all matters to be developed in relation to the meditation and concerning the powers coming into appearance, which are to be developed in this regard, still stand very much in their beginnings. It may still take a long time before she develops the necessary qualities and is ready to accept such a task.
Good, that is clear to me. But now, can you still give me a few more tips about our core group members? I would like to know to what extent these stood in connection in the incarnations between today and the last 2,000 years.
There are, in fact, various and very interesting connections there, which I have not yet fully worked out, however. Therefore, I would only like to give you one tip relating to this, that all their physical bodies repeatedly changed in the interim from that time to the present time. So they eked out their lives alternately as male and female life forms, and of course, also always as other personalities. An interesting case. Though, with special data, points out that Maria, your wife, and Madeline were triplet sisters several centuries ago as other personalities and became a talking point in certain things. But so also did various others of the current group members become a talking point in other times as other personalities. For they actuated themselves organizationally in the matter of the spiritual teaching and even established organizations that have remained existent up to the current time. In particular, I would like to mention in this connection the now very distinct organization of the Great White Brotherhood, which was established and called into life by the former personality of someone who performs very valuable services today as a group member in your group. But so also are those of others, even if their relevant services are not as great as in the aforementioned case. But the fact that the Great White Brotherhood and its sects which have sprung from it contain so very much of the truthly truth. This is not surprising, for the true knowledge was, indeed, processed into the teachings of these organizations. But unfortunately, it is true that a lot of nonsense and falsehoods found entrance into the teachings of these organizations. But on the other hand, this was inevitable because the Earth human, after such a long time, could no longer be confronted with the full truth. Thus, strictly religious and also delusion-believing facts became processed into the teachings, for only because of these did the Earth human become involved with the new teachings. But these must now be slowly and steadily worked back out and corrected by the spreading and teaching of the pure and truthly truth, which you have taken over the obligation to bring and to spread.
That is clear to me, Quetzal, and I thank you for your hints regarding the incarnations of the group members.
No thanks for that are due to me. But now, my friend, I have to explain to you some things with regard to your condition and your health. It does not escape me by any means that your condition is not the best, and that you bring a sense of humor to light, which does not rhyme with your condition. You feel very miserable and you have pains. I recognize this very well, even though you seek to conceal this very masterfully. For my part, my friend, as a result of my knowledge, I got in touch with a friend whose advice I had to obtain. With his loving cooperation, I will develop a device that should be helpful to you, according to which you shall then be subjected to a treatment 2 to 3 times per month with this device. Only after that can we then make further decisions and perhaps make new findings. But until then, my friend, you stand under and in my treatment referred to you, through which you will always be somewhat tired in the future. Then it is valid for you that you need a lot of fresh air and to have peace, which means that you are to indulge in long walks and recover yourself. Moreover, it is urgently necessary for you that you protect your nervous system very much and avoid any excitement. This means for you that in the future and in the long run, you may no longer present lessons to the public via lectures, that this task must, therefore, be taken over by group members. Also, you should not speak too much, and if you do, then only in a calm manner and also very slowly. Furthermore, you must be mindful of the fact that you find plenty of sleep in the future, for this contributes very much to the fact that you get less worked up. Your nerves are very wrecked and have become vulnerable through all the circumstances that have arisen in recent months and various other things, which are known to you very well. You and also all group members should know and be clear about the fact that your health is very dangerously struck and that it needs only very little for you to collapse definitively. The entire strength of your body is affected, which is why it is also dangerous if you go far away from your house alone, except when we call you, for we will be endeavored around your safety. Your body has become very vulnerable and weak, which is why you constantly run the risk of collapsing somewhere when you go on walks and recreational travels, making it necessary that you do this not alone and thus always only in company.
That is, once again, devilishly clear, my son. But unfortunately, it does not let itself be arranged that someone dallies around with me forever. Mostly, though, there are only women and girls who could take on such a task, for the men must be utilized for important works. But this, my son, again means that renewed scenes of jealousy will appear, and new hatred and new intrigues will make everything crazy, for something behind it will be sought again, which has neither hands nor feet. Just consider, please, that as soon as I go away with a woman or a girl, perhaps into the woods or even somewhere else, that once again, there will immediately arise wild and bad assumptions and fantasies that something is going on, which is neither to be brought into line with morality, nor with the teaching, nor with decency, etc. In short words, this means that from some persons the crazy idea will then immediately arise again, that I could be lying in the bushes somewhere with my companion and making love.
That is nevertheless not really your seriousness?
Yes, unfortunately. I must unfortunately always count on it. Quetzal has indeed also found this out himself, as he explained just now.
That is, unfortunately, of correctness. But all group members should finally awake in reason and grasp everything in accordance with the truth and correctness. I will thoroughly consider these concerns again and, as far as possible, direct a further word of instruction to everyone at our next contact.
Do that. Maybe it will help then. But my hopes for this are, unfortunately, equal to 0. You know that when jealousy is in play in certain matters with human beings, it is usually hopeless. I have had my experiences with this and have realized that in such cases, all reason and all talking are not in the least bit useful.
That is incomprehensible to me.
You do not stand alone in your opinion there. Also to me, this is an absolute mystery, and I can neither solve it nor understand it.
Nevertheless, I will strive for it again. But now we should still turn to other things because the time simply does not stand still. All of you, with very few exceptions, strive in the area of the meditation very much, and also quite respectable successes are already to be noted. And of course, I am not speaking of you, my friend. A close study of the psyche of the individual group members has let me recognize that for the promotion of the meditation, and also in daily life and at meetings, a melodious background music would be of much value. This brought me to the idea to give you, in accordance with our model, the advice that especially for the meditation exercises and for the meetings of an internal form, you should bring a musical accompaniment into application, and I will strive for the suitable pieces of the earthly music area, according to which you can then procure these music pieces for yourselves. In the same context, it is still to be said as an explanation that it has become of requirement that you form a meditation circle in the internal circle, through which you will drive the meditation during circle meetings in order to bring all into the way of success.
That may indeed encounter active interest again, but whether all will be in agreement with it, I do not know. You know, some married people already groan constantly because of the Sohar Center arrangement and say that they came into conflict with their spouses and so on.
Is the teaching and the progress not of much more value to them than the human inadequacy in regard to marriage, which, as a rule, has been entered by the core group members of the current existence against their own former determinations, with one exception, so namely, that of Engelbert and Maria?
You know damn much again, and your speech will not exactly fall on friendly open ears.
That may be of correctness, for if an earth human is made attentive to his or her mistakes, even if these have already been very clear to him for some time, then he reacts very bitterly. Thus, probably even those will react in this form who see their mistakes uncovered by me. These, however, are all their concerns. They have placed themselves into a stove of nettles, as you like to say it, and they have to work themselves out of it. But this only corresponds to an observation and not a reproach.
Of course, but what the heck? We cannot change it anyway. But tell me, since you speak of it, how is it then with me? Have I also violated one of my determinations by my marriage?
Your question is very illogical because you know about the truth.
I just wanted to hear it from you, because sometimes I really do not know anymore if I am situated correctly now or not. Okay, then just so be it. And then, I have no reason to run away or otherwise mess up things, although I would often want this because my wife, damn it, because even very much more goes wrong than what was prophesied to me.
We must go on, my friend, so listen. The new pyramid construction must be started under all circumstances in the month of September, so that it will be finished in time. I already told you the reasons for this last time, but you should not speak of those yet. If the construction is delayed, this can have very serious consequences, as is well known to you. Therefore, the construction of this pyramid may not be delayed under any circumstances.
That means renewed rebellion again, my friend. Very especially because of the finances.
That cannot be taken into consideration, which you know very well. But now, my friend, we must go. Farewell, and be assured that we will already call you again very soon.
Okay, I should also go back. I still want to get something at a store, which is why I still have to go to Wetsicon. Then bye to you both and keep your chin up.
Sure, dear friend, and pay close attention to yourself. Till we meet again, and pay my dear greetings to all.
I will, my child. Very loving thanks for that. By the way, I am also to give you and Ketzel dear greetings. And still many thanks for the tip, on account of the chocolates. Bye to you both.
Till we meet again.
Farewell, my friend.
Starting from the 115th contact, Billy wrote down the reports. With one hand, of course. using a new electrical Adler typewriter, which he used in place of the old, worn-out Remington typewriter. The Adler typewriter was technologically upgraded by Quetzal in such a way that Billy could keep up with the very fast telepathic transmissions of the conversation recordings, which lay between 1,200 and 1,300 letters per minute. This fact was observed by various group members and held in Wassermannsite articles. The Adler stood uninterruptedly in Billy's services until May of 2002. Note at the request of Florina on the 23rd of January 2003.